Hey, True Believers, Chris Mack coming at you today with Wolverine Patch Issue 1. And I gotta say, it was such a treat to finally have Larry Hama back on a Wolverine book. There's a feeling of old schoolness having that original talent on the book. So before we get into it and kind of talk about what was good and what really kind of irked my gurk about this issue, let's talk about who made Patch here. This is Larry Hama writing, Andrea DeVito penciling, LeBow Underwood inker, Sebastian Chang doing the colors, VC's Clayton Cowles doing the lettering. Here's everyone else working on the book. And then I believe Wolverine was just created by Len Wein himself. Now I love here that they used the old school, I think it was Wolverine issue 6, the John Buscema cover where he's leaned up against Joe Fixit, which that would have been fun to kind of trail back into. But it sort of gives you a quick, synopsis on what we are focusing on. So feel free to pause and read it at your convenience. And then we dive into the Princess Bar and we see Wolverine and Archie hanging out. And that was just a treat to see these hip cats, yes, I said hip cats, together again. But remember, in Madripoor, there's the Prince and then there's Tiger. And they're saying that they have a proposition for both of them. And the Prince is saying that there's some weird stuff going on in the mountain reserves. And so he's saying that he's willing to pay Archie money to take Patch up and kind of see what's going on. Archie mentions that his business is failing, but Patch is saying, I'm not interested. But the Prince says, I will pay Mr. Corrigan's triple his normal rate. And Archie's, again, talking about his failing business. And he goes, come on, Patch. That triple weight would go a long way towards paying off the creditors. And so Wolverine being Wolverine goes, money talks, nobody walks. Looks like I'm doing an aerial recon. Now, it's a great way to build it up because that's kind of how all the old school early Wolverine books were in Madripoor, where, you kind of establish where we are and then we just jump right into it. Now let's get past the obnoxious ads. One thing that I'm going to talk about right off the bat that kind of gets on my nerves about this book is the art. I'm not saying it's bad, because I don't, there's always people that could be worse, people that could be better. But it's just, a lot of these new comics, when you look at the artwork like this, it has that modern 3D model look about it. I mean, when you go back and read Wolverine during the Chris Claremont era, during the Peter David era, and all those writers, and even the Larry Hama when he had Adam Kubert, you could feel the artist's touch on each one of them, how they just had their individual style, and it added to the mood of whatever was being written. But, I pick up a Wolverine comic, I pick up a Spider-Man comic book, and it all has this, I don't know how to put my finger on it, but it just kind of has this generic, bland, like someone's just Googling people in a cockpit and then they just draw it that way. It just does not feel like it should. But anyway, going back to the story, there's people here that are working on some sort of experiment, and that's not what Wolverine's looking at right now. He notices that there's, in conjunction to this weird experimentation going on that we find out at the beginning of the book, there's also a crashed Russian ship. And so, again, they're doing all this reconnaissance. And then this is where the book throws me again, is all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes S.H.I.E.L.D. And they're forcing Archie and Logan to board. He's like, out here, they call me Patch Fury. I don't care if you're calling yourself Little Miss Sunshine. You're poaching on my Balwick, and that's not going to fly. S.H.I.E.L.D. has got covert surveillance and progress here. Now, okay, that's cool. Larry Hama, being a vet, kind of knows how to add that military feel to his books. But this makes no sense, because if this is supposed to be like an X-Men Legacy book where we kind of go back and do stories in between stories, during the whole Madripoor scene, Logan was presumed dead after in Dallas after the events of the Fall of the Mutants. And even after in Wolverine #1, it's established that with the world thinking Wolverine dead, this is what I'm doing here in Madripoor. So I don't know if it's because Fury's that smart of a guy that he's figured out Wolverine's not really dead. But he's just, that was very jarring. And it's quick. It's only like 1, 2 pages, and then they're into the action of Wolverine and Archie. I don't know if the later parts of this miniseries are going to amount to anything, but it kind of takes you out of the moment of Archie and Wolverine being alone out in the middle of nowhere. And that was another thing about Madripoor, is Wolverine did not really have backup in terms of like the X-Men or anyone from the primary Marvel universe. He usually got help from people around Madripoor, and it was kind of a hit or miss if they were actually going to be really helpful to him or not. So, you'd have, I don't even know, because Yukio was in Japan. And this just, again, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm having a hard time expressing my emotions on this book because it's a love and hate. I'm happy to see Logan back. But again, it's just like, if this is supposed to take place back in the day, right there off the bat, Hama should have known not to bring Fury in. But all that aside now, I love this panel of him jumping out straight out of the plane, because Fury tells Logan, stop messing with my reconnaissance. And so Logan tells, once they're released, Logan tells Archie to go above the tree lines. He's like, what are you going to do, Patch? And that's another thing, too, is Archie, I don't think, ever knew that he was Wolverine. I think at one point it might have been discovered, but as far back as I remember, he always knew him as Patch and did not know that he was a mutant or an X-Man. Another thing, aesthetic-wise, I would never know Logan to go out into the middle of the brush wearing his, as we like to call it, the Casablanca suit. Anytime that Patch would go out on a mission, he always wore like this brown leather jacket, kind of like a fisherman type style hat, kind of like just regular street clothes. So for Hama to keep him in this suit through the whole thing was just a little jarring for those of us that have been reading Wolverine for years. But just to see Logan jump out of the plane so he doesn't get detected on radar, just wham, bam, 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 bam. And again, his suit's not even torn up. Look at that. What a continuity error. Ugh. There should be some green on that jacket. It should look a lot nastier than it does. So, again, you gotta have to have that suspension of belief. I know I'm breathing too much into it, but I guess it's just I was hoping for more with this first issue, because a lot of it, as you read, is just build up, because you start to see how the I don't know if it's the Chinese or the Japanese government's involved, the Russians are involved, and how it all accumulates here in Madripoor, and Tiger is starting to wonder what type of coming and goings are going on here. There's a big-ass fight at the end with this Russian woman. They don't even know what her name is, but she gives Logan a run for his money. And this is kind of where the book gets interesting again, because he's out in the middle of nowhere. He's like, okay, the gloves are off. But again, as you can see, Wolverine has his work cut out for him, because you find out that this brother and sister, or I don't know if they're husband and wife, it just says that they're family, and that's as far as we get with these two. We don't even get their names. So it just, I trust Larry. He's always written Wolverine and G.I. Joe really good. But sometimes when they bring back these vets, like Claremont, Hama, etc., so forth, I sometimes feel like they've been so far removed, like years-wise, from the character, that they kind of start to lose their touch a little bit. There's been a few that have come back and kicked ass, like Nikezia and Louise Simonson. They did good on their X-Men legacies, so I'm hoping that this takes off, because this is not... I kind of feel like they should have made this, a extra large issue, and made it a one-shot, because I think there's like 5 issues, and I'm like, do I really want to commit my time to something that's not a main run and sort of not a what if per se, but there's not a lot in here in this first issue to really grab you, other than the nostalgia factor of seeing Logan back in Madripoor. Hell, I would have even just taken an issue of him running around Madripoor. There's that, what was it, the Lazarus Effect? It might have been that one. I can't remember, but it's when Peter David was writing the series, and Archie's brother came down and kind of got him and Archie and all them into a heap of trouble. And there's this whole chase through the streets of Madripoor, Wolverine having to figure out creative ways to pop his claws without giving away who he is. And it was just fun. And even then, like, because it's Peter David, was able to pop some jokes here and there and made it a little bit of levity. This You know, Hama can be a little more serious in his writings, especially when it comes to Logan. But again, as I just said, we get the established Madripoor stuff. We get what the stakes are. And then there's a fight. I kind of just wish there was more engagement with the main plot. Like, instead of, like, there's this mystery unfolding on what all these different entities are doing in Madripoor. But other than that, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm still on the fence. I guess I just need time to process this. I'm thinking, in terms of being biased about all the old Wolverine runs, I guess I have to let this one sit for a while. But as it stands, having Wolverine and Madripoor, I'm excited. And I wish, now that I'm thinking, I just wish the artwork was more engaging. Because, I mean, when you look back, and this is what I'm talking about. When you go back and look at, like, the old school John Buscema look, that was great. But then you come back here and it just... I'm not saying it's bad, but there's something missing that just, it just feels flat to me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is you like to pick up your comics and get yourself a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little tiger bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I will make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you all so much for sticking with me through this review. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.